Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mansplaining Mike with the Mansplaining Mike Show, and today we're going to talk about what's going on in South Korea. We're going to take a look at what Al Jazeera had to say about it. It's a clip that I took. I edited down really a lot of it. It was 20 minutes. We're going to take a look at 5 minutes of it. If you guys want to see the whole thing, I'll show you where you can find it, and I'll put a link in the description box below. Anyway, guys, let's get into it and see what we think about what's going on in South Korea.
Today, the aftermath of a wild 6 hours in South Korean politics.
From crisis to celebration in a matter of hours, South Koreans poured onto the streets after the president Yoon Suk-yeol backed down, reversing his decision to impose martial law.
First martial law was called, then it was called off.
Hi, my name is Seung Koo. I'm a journalist and founder of Korea Expose, a media startup based in Seoul, South Korea.
Welcome to The Take, Seung. A lot has happened in South Korea.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared martial law.
But shortly after, members of parliament, including some from his own party, voted to block that move. So effectively, nothing has changed and everything has changed.
I guess whiplash is a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, first of all, the fact that we're hearing this phrase martial law in the context of Korea is bizarre enough, and I'm sure that you've heard people describe it purely as stunning. The sense of shock also for me is it's something that is very difficult to describe. The last time martial law was imposed in Korea was about 45 years ago. In Korea, of course, transitioned to full electoral democracy in 1987. And just like you and everybody else, I believe this is a stable democracy. We have rule of law, we have institutions that safeguard our rights, and then bam, this happens.
친애하는 국민 여러분, 저는 북한
Dear
공산
citizens,
세력의 위협으로부터
I hereby declare an emergency meeting
우리 국민의
to protect the Republic of Korea from the threats of the North Korean Communist forces and to protect the freedom and happiness of our people.
비상계엄을 선포합니다.
There was actually a text circulated by what is called the Martial Law Command. So that's the branch of the military that was supposed to enforce rule. And three things that really stood out to me when I was looking at this text. One is a ban on all political activities within the country, and that included any kind of legislative activities. So the government or the president was saying that now the National Assembly, which is the parliament, is not allowed to engage in politics. And then there was also suspension of freedom of press. And also there was a very specific clause at the end that said, if you violate the terms of martial law, you can be arrested, detained, and searched without warrant.
So were people seeing tanks and special forces and soldiers out in the streets?
So these are actually the images that went through my
I just wanted to point out that sounds a lot like what our government was trying to say about January 6th when people were trying to fight back for their rights. I just think there's a little bit of a correlation there.
mind, obviously, when I read through this text. Right? And then, in fact, on social media, we started to see pictures of armed military vehicles rolling down the streets of Seoul. They were later proven to be fake. But the fact that it was so believable to those who were seeing these pictures, I think really gives you a very good sense of the mood.
Yeah. So those were faked. What was real, and perhaps just as unbelievable, is seeing lawmakers at the National Assembly inside and then seeing that there be barricades or furniture because whether or not they were inside or outside, whether they had permission to be and wanting to vote on this to undeclare this martial law, all of that was happening in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so the president declared martial law on a televised address at about 10:40 p.m. And right after that, lawmakers started to gather on this island called Yeouido, which is where the National Assembly building actually is. And as far as we know, the members of the ruling party, that's the party of the president, they were also concerned, but they actually did not go to the parliament building. But it's the 190 lawmakers from the opposition who did. And already there were buses after buses from the police barricading the main gate of the complex so that nobody could enter.
Wow.
And we have seen videos, live videos posted by some of these lawmakers who climbed over the fence of the parliament complex in order to enter the building without being caught by the police.
Oh my gosh. And then
We have some video about that goes a little bit more in depth. I'm going to pull that up real quick so you can see sort of like what had escalated and happened, where they were actually breaking into the building, pushing their way in anyway. So here's a video of it actually happening. Let's take a look at it and see what you guys think. Seems like they're holding their government accountable, or at least they're trying to.
미친 새끼들이에요, 여러분들.
네, 좀 찍고 갈게요.
여러분들 똑똑히 보세요. 군인들이 미쳤습니다, 지금. 윤석열의 개가 되면 안 됩니다, 군인들은. 윤석열을 끌어내야 됩니다. 네, 우리 군인들.
Well, that's just so you guys could see what was going on and how serious it was getting. We have some more news about that too. We'll take another look at what some other people's opinions were. But as you can see, this is where I got our video from that we're watching the clip of. You can find it on Al Jazeera English. So if you guys want to see what, like the whole clip of that, like I said, it was 20 minutes. You guys will be able to find it here. But we're going to go back to the clip now. I just wanted to show you guys what they were talking about was happening. And I thought I had some better video than what they had put on. So anyway, let's continue on and see what else we can find out about this. Because, I mean, it looks like it was pretty serious, guys. And it hasn't been in our news like that. I'm kind of curious as to why.
and protesters also showed up at some point.
Yeah, people definitely started to gather. I had some friends messaging me saying they were on the ground watching what is going on. And then what made it even more incredible is that military helicopters started to show up. They were flying over the building. And then these special forces soldiers started appearing on the ground, all ready to storm the building. And that's really something that just goes against any kind of image of Korea that I think Koreans themselves have. The lawmakers started climbing over the fence to get inside the building. And then the special forces stormed the building, right? They were breaking windows to get inside. And then you had parliamentary aides spraying the soldiers with fire extinguisher, trying to keep them out.
Lawmakers rushed to the National Assembly where the Speaker of Parliament declared the martial law announcement invalid. Legislators early on Wednesday voted to reject it.
That's the funny thing. Zero reaction from the president. People are thinking, okay, National Assembly made its will very clear. This is being broadcast on live TV. The guy must have gotten the message. And then he says nothing, right? And then the speaker is like, okay, so I guess you didn't get the message. So we're going to send the signed physical document over to you now.
Wow.
And even after that, like hours and hours of silence, and or finally at 4:30 a.m.
바로 국무회의를 통해
he comes out and says, okay, now I respect the will of the legislature. Thank you, everybody. But in fact, like, people ask, why did it fail? Like, how is it that the president declares martial law and then 6 hours later he's like, okay, that's over, bye-bye now. But in fact, what he himself probably did not expect is how unenthusiastic the armed forces would be. And also the police too. They didn't want to hurt people or kill people. The orders came from the top, so they tried to follow to the best extent without actually being held accountable for any kind of serious consequences. So that's really what this government and the president did not anticipate, and that's why this martial law basically failed.
That begs the question. I've seen some headlines and reports floating around today of the word coup. What do you make of that word in this context?
Well, so the important distinction between a coup and imposing martial law is whether it's constitutional or not. And in fact, I think we can argue that the way the president imposed martial law was itself unconstitutional, because he was obligated to inform the legislature the moment this happened. And he was on TV so people could watch it, but he did not have their consent. And he actually tried to prevent the legislature from voting against it.
Now the conversation has moved on to impeachment. So on Wednesday, the opposition party demanded Yoon resign. He didn't. They then submitted an impeachment bill. So could he be impeached?
Well, I mean, Korea already impeached one president, and that was only 8 years ago.
Right.
So constitutionally, this is completely possible. And right now, the opposition is controlling the National Assembly. They have about 191 seats out of 300. What they need to pass the impeachment motion is to have 200 votes. So 2/3. But if there are any defections from the ruling party, and it's very possible that there would be, then in fact, impeachment motion would move to the next stage, which is to be ruled on by the Constitutional Court. There's a little bit of a hiccup because the Constitutional Court normally has 9 justices. Right now, 3 of those seats are vacant. And to have a quorum, you need at least 7 justices to be presiding over any kind of ruling. So can they do that with 6? Or do they need to appoint more justices? National Assembly will elect new justices, but the appointment has to be done by none other than the president himself.
With what you're explaining about the declaration of martial law being unconstitutional, at least in the way that it was done, do you think that will be part of the impeachment proceedings if they happen?
For sure. The word that is going around the political landscape in Korea at the moment is insurrection.
Well, there you hear it, guys. I remember they were trying to say that January 6th was an insurrection too. I don't believe that was an insurrection. I believe people just want to know that their vote is counting, and it's really not being counted a lot of the time. And Donald Trump says he's going to pardon a lot of those guys. I pray that he does. I mean, that's important. Well, guys, let's take a look at what Sky News has to say about it. I mean, it should be interesting to see if they espouse the same things as Al Jazeera anyway. And then we can go ahead, give our opinions, and close it out. So let's see what's going on, guys.
The South Korean president, Yoon Suk-yeol, has declared martial law. He began an unannounced late-night television address to the nation. He has said that he's had no choice but to resort to such a measure in order to safeguard free and constitutional order, saying that opposition parties have taken hostage of the parliamentary process. He's declared the martial law to try and free the Republic of Korea, he says, from the threat of North Korean communist forces and to eradicate what he says is the despicable pro-North Korean anti-state forces. Now, he did not say...
Hey, do you guys think the party of Russia would ever try that? I wouldn't put it past them. They always are trying to scare us into a fight or an argument or make us not really get along with each other. And I mean, just to be fair, it's not just the Democrats, it's also the rhinos. So people like this, they're present in our government too.
In the late night address, which, as I say, was unannounced, what specific measures are going to be taken. But the president of South Korea has declared martial law in the East Asian country, and the opposition leader there in the South Korean parliament has responded in the minutes after that announcement, saying that he will try to nullify the move, but that the military may try to arrest members of parliament. This is a breaking story that is developing all the time. We'll, of course, bring you the...
Well, that would be interesting to see if the military gets to arresting people. I wonder who they would be backing up in this instance. Would it be the president? Or would it be the parliament who voted to stop all of the martial law orders that he had put out? It would be an interesting thing to see. I mean, I hope our military will fight back for us at some point. I mean, the Democrats pretty much have got us into World War III. I hope our military eventually says enough is enough and we don't always have to depend on waiting 4 years for the president to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody in the government swears an oath to protect the Constitution. So when you see these lawmakers violating our constitutional rights, you wonder, is anybody ever going to hold them accountable? And the answer to that is, it can happen. It just has to be from us, just regular people who say enough is enough. And we can go to the courts and challenge all of these unconstitutional laws. I'm starting to do it here in Michigan. I hope people start doing it all around the United States, because it's not a one-man job to change these laws. It'll take a valiant effort from a lot of different people. We all need to say enough is enough and start holding our government responsible. I mean, it's ways you can look these laws up, read the Constitution, and see what you guys think. I mean, if something doesn't seem right to you, challenge it. It's your constitutional right. And if you don't have enough money to challenge it, or you don't have the time, maybe get an attorney. But if you don't have the money for that, you can learn these laws and do it yourself. Like, all you need is a constitutional handbook or something that'll allow you to read the Constitution. And when you hear about these lawmakers passing laws that violate those constitutional rights, take them to court for it. You have the right to do that as a citizen of the United States. And that's what people need to start doing. Because the government isn't going to safeguard our rights. It's the government's job to do that. That's what they swear an oath to do. But whenever they do that, they lose power. Because this Constitution was written to limit the powers of the government, not limit the powers of the people. So they're going to take advantage at every turn and try to flip it on us. And it's our job to make sure that they don't. Anyway, guys, I'm Mansplaining Mike. This was the Mansplaining Mike Show. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And share this with some sissy liberal who might cry about it all month. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.